Hey, hi everyone. So I'm Neil Mack. Here's some details about me. I have Keith's suggestion a couple of years ago in Maastricht was to be a mentor. So I've actually agreed to help out Xavier with the CWNA and Sebastian with CWAP. So if you want to follow our journey, thank you. A couple of people mentioned it. So if you want to follow our journey, just check in at the blog there. So when Keith asked me yesterday if I'd be interested in doing a talk, I was more than happy to do it because I think it's really important to contribute something back. But it was a very last-minute thing, and we weren't sure if we were going to get time. So thank you, Keith, for allowing me to do this. And, of course, it's because of efforts of Keith and Fernie and Matthew here especially, inspires people like me to try and give something back. And I think you guys have done a fantastic job. And if it hasn't been said before, I really want to take my hat off to you for everything you're doing. So, yeah, all right. So my line of work is training, and training is something that's not often discussed at events like this. So I was really pleased when Blake got up yesterday and spoke about his experiences of getting towards training and getting into training. And I want to say, with all the respect in the world to Blake, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the training community. But your journey as a trainer has just begun. And now what you should aim to be is a great trainer. So that is I'm not saying that you're not, but there's always room for excellence. So I'm going to talk now about the 3 things that a great trainer needs. Okay, why is it important to be a great trainer? Anyone? Why do you need to be a good trainer? You've all been on training courses. What does it mean to you to have the guy in front of you to be a good trainer? Why is it important? Well, these are questions that we need to ask ourselves as a trainer, because our job is more than just reading out PowerPoint slides. We have a moral, legal, ethical responsibility to transfer knowledge and to help people to go on and perform their job differently. Now, adults make judgments on everything they learn. They make a value judgment, and they need to assess what you're teaching them, and they need to hold it as valuable. And this is a subconscious thing. So it's up to our excellence to make sure that that message is held at the back of the mind. Now, great trainers bring content alive, and they encourage long-term attitude change. So my talk on 3 great things a trainer needs begins with credibility. The first thing you need when you are a trainer is credibility. So how do you gain credibility as a trainer? 2 things, qualification and certification. Qualification means you've spent time in the field working on installations. Let's aim this particular at Wi-Fi training. You've got that field experience so that when you stand up in front of an audience and talk about your Wi-Fi experiences, you've got that experience to back you up, because people look at that and they feel inspired by it. The second thing is you need to have qualifications. So if you're teaching on a particular subject, of course, you need to be qualified in that subject and certified in that subject. It's not good enough just to take an exam after doing a 5-day course and then try to teach it if that 5-day course was your very first exposure to it. So you need that long time experience. So I sum it up here. For example, for Wi-Fi training, credibility comes from your CWNA certifications. If you're going to be training for a vendor, for example, I think it's important to be CWNA. Or if you're training analysis tools, again, CWNA should be a minimum requirement. But also your trainer qualifications. So lots of trainers in this room, how many people are actually formally trained and have taken formal exams in being a trainer? Okay, perfect. This is just as important as your Wi-Fi knowledge. And then again, any other experiences that help towards your journey as a trainer. The second thing you need is great material. And I feel that that is the big failing within our community. When I'm talking about trainers and technical training. I once attended a course over in the United States for VSAT engineering. I was a VSAT technician, and it was a 4-day technician's course for support staff that were going to maintain these satellite systems. There's 1,800 PowerPoint slides in 4 days, and we only got to actually hands on the equipment on the afternoon of the 4th day because it took us that long to get through the PowerPoint slides. Terrible. There's no excuse for that kind of thing. So we need great material. So how do we get great material? Well, the first thing is the instructional designers. They need to have the same level of skills, a dedication to their craft, which is creating content. We need to determine who the target audience is for the training that we're delivering. Okay, so who is it that we're training? What is it they need to know at the end of this training? When they walk out this door, what's the attitude change that we're trying to create? From that, we define learning objectives. And once we've got the learning objectives, we create the content to deliver the objectives. We need to introduce something called a narrative, the story of the training that we're trying to deliver. What is the story that's in there? And if it's not designed into the content, you as a trainer need to try and bring that narrative out. It's really important. At the end of that, we've got create the exam to test knowledge of the learning objectives. So they're the three key things. And again, this quite often isn't looked into. It's just let's put some PowerPoints together, get up and read them out and hope that people are going to understand. The failing is in this process. If it doesn't happen, then people are not going to be able to go back and do their jobs differently, which is what we're trying to achieve. There needs to be a measurable effect, i.e., how do we normally test or monitor or measure whether training's been a success? At the end of the week, we do a survey, and what the bosses do, they look down and see, has the instructor scored high enough points? Did they like the instructor? Is that a true measure of success of training? And it's not. The measure of success is when people go back into the workplace and they change their attitudes and their behaviours, they do their job differently, and they start to perform the tasks that you've trained them to do. So what's a good way to measure, for example, if your training's been effective? If you train on a vendor, then at the end of that training, are the support calls lower, for example? That's a way of measuring the success. And again, we don't define that into our process often enough, and we don't understand that that's what we're trying to achieve. And how do you do that? It's follow-up after the course is finished. So that entire process should be written in and thought about and considered by anybody who's actually creating content. So you as the trainer, that's often not your job. But what will happen is you'll get given content. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. This is my mind map. I'm currently developing the new Smart Zone content for Ruckus. And so this is my objective. So we come up with the objectives first. And if you look at that, we drill down. And we can see just on the Smart Zone discovery side, we can see here where we've got the different objectives within the chapter, broken up into labs. Each of these represents an anchor point within the PowerPoint slides, all tied to a learning objective. If we look at the lab exercises, we can see they're interspersed. It's not a whole lab, a whole section with the labs at the end. We've actually got the labs in the middle to try and anchor those knowledge points. And here is the tasks that we'll be performing in the lab. So all of our content gets designed along these lines. And if it's not designed along those lines, then it's going to be harder for you to subconsciously, as the student, remember those points. So again, really key. Third thing that you need as an instructor is great instructor skills. So how do we get that? Well, we all talk about the 802.11 standard, and we're all here shaking our heads at the bar, tutting about poor Wi-Fi installs, and we all say, if only that guy knew about the 802.11 standard or was CWNA trained or did some design training, his network would be superb. We wouldn't be troubleshooting it. What about the 802.11 for trainers? It's called the IBS TPI competencies. And this is the 802.11 of training. Gives you 5 knowledge domains. Okay? Within these knowledge domains, you are supposed to understand the theory within those domains and apply them when you train. If you want to go forward and take this training, the CompTIA CTT Plus is the exam that's based on these objectives. And in order to become CompTIA certified, you do a 20-minute video that you submit, and within that video, you have to demonstrate knowledge of and application of all of these domains. For me, the biggest one here is questioning technique. Demonstrate effective questioning skills. If I coach someone as a trainer, the biggest thing I say, the thing that you can make the most difference in how well you are coming across as a trainer is to improve your questioning technique. So if you learn this method, it goes a long way towards improving your trainer skills. Now, we have an ATP program at Ruckus. What it means is that we allow certain distributors to provide training, and all the ATP trainers have to go through a program with us where we do a one-day instructional skills class. Now, I myself am CompTIA certified. It was a 5-day training class just on trainer technique. So we boiled it down into one day, but we stay within the IBS TPI domain so that people understand that we're teaching them a sort of watered-down version of a very well-known theory or very well-known standard. So that's the training that we give to ruckus. And we've actually got a couple of guys here that have been through the ISD class. Kuhn is here. Is Kuhn here? Kuhn Verbeck? Yeah, he's maybe not here. And Christian Fabina? Yeah, so Christian's been through it. So feel free to ask these guys what they thought of the training, how it affected their and improved their delivery skills. So I just want to give you a couple of examples of things we look at. So here's the classroom layout. How many times does anybody look at a classroom and think the table layout is integral to people's learning ability? Well, it is. So here what we've done is we've changed the table layout, the way that people interact with each other. We have put some bits and bobs on the table. Every single thing on that table is there for a specific reason, to assist learning. And if you're a trainer and you don't know what those represent, then again, you should really go back and look at the theory behind things like colour, touch, aesthetics, all that sort of stuff. Another thing is, this comes back to course design, but also for yourselves, is how you facilitate learning. And again, too many times it's death by PowerPoint. But what we've got here is an exercise where we, instead of telling someone something, we give it to them as a task and we put them into pairs. And these are students. This is live in a class. They didn't know I was recording them. So they're working together to define some specific objectives that I want them to know. So you see how they collaborate. They're talking to each other. They're not just sat there. This ISD class, by the way, there's no PowerPoints. The entire class for one day is all instructor interaction. So they're the guys going through it. Okay, so great instructor skills. You need to know the instructional theory yourselves as trainers. And you need to commit to being the best. I have a folder like this. I read it every time I go to teach a course, and every time I finish a course, I get back and I read my notes in the folder and I think, what did I do wrong? What could I do better? Did I ask questions correctly? Did I give students the opportunity to learn what we're trying to do for them? Great material works with the trainer. Bad material fights against you as a trainer. So there we go. So there's the three things that you need: credibility, great instructor skills, and great material. Now, wherever you're positioned on here as a trainer, those three areas are where you should be asking questions and driving your own knowledge and ability to become much stronger as a trainer. Thank you.